All right, we're back. Wow. A little inside baseball, just so people know what the hell just happened there.
I like that inside baseball.
Well, it is a little bit, because it's a little
411.
more information than you need, but just so you know why that happened and why there's two versions of this episode, or two parts of this episode, is because our other guy, Jim Suhan, who is well, what would you call? He's the horse of this network, I'd say right now, is doing a show live at Kieran's, and so he gets to do his show live. He's got the big guest, and he's got the big stuff going on. So we are doing this recorded now. So if you were listening live, wondering what happened, this is the second half of the same show. So we'll continue where we were with the SNL talk.
Wonderful.
So I was just saying that the beginning fell flat with Fallon. To me, fell flat with Fallon and with Timberlake, but I thought the Steve Martin stuff was great, and everybody brought up, the best host and the best sports host and the best actor and the best all of that. I mean, with Peyton Manning. But okay, now the one thing that sticks out for me from that right now actually is the Peyton Manning thing, saying how he's been hit in the head a lot. That's not funny.
I mean,
I get why it was funny, but it's not funny anymore. You know what I mean? Like 20 years ago, that joke just, everybody just falls over laughing. But now it's like, yeah, you have injuries because you weren't told how dangerous your sport is, and your sport tried to cover it up, and like people are literally killing themselves because of these injuries, and you're joking about it. I didn't like that.
You got offended by the NFL joke?
A little bit, but especially it was a guy who has gone through the stuff. So if anybody can make the joke, it's him. But I think it's just not funny, and he didn't write it, so it's not. It's a writer that wrote it.
But why? I mean, it's making fun of the whole system. It's making fun of how ridiculous it is.
Well, he was making fun of the fact that he can't think very well because he's been hit in the head so many times. That's just not funny.
Why is that
Why
funny?
that's not funny? Because he has brain injuries. That's like saying it's funny that somebody, is mentally retarded. Is that funny? Like,
no. Well, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that's taking it to an extreme.
But that's why it's funny, is because, I mean, it's not the best joke in the world. I didn't like laugh out loud at it, but I'm, I mean, because it's so ridiculous that we allow that to happen, that it's comical. That is a part of our culture, that we allow someone to get hit in the head so many times and get paid for it that they essentially become stupider, or have serious injuries, which is kind of sad. But he's kind of making fun of the whole thing.
Yeah, okay.
Like, kind of like, why would I allow that to happen? Why do we allow this to happen?
It's kind of about the absurdity of the entire thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And about American culture in general being a bit absurd, which of course nails it.
Absolutely.
Now, okay. Any highlight you want to throw in there, go ahead. But
well, I found it super fascinating to see all these different stars come up throughout the show, whether it was Eddie Murphy, Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, Alec Baldwin, and you still get the guys who are so comfortable being up there. And it's like, wow, like that's what they were meant to do. Like Steve Martin, you got that feeling. Martin Short, I got that feeling.
Yes.
Jerry Seinfeld is still, he gets up there and he's talking to the audience and doing his little stand-up, but he's still perfect at it decades later. And then you kind of get these guys where it's like, what? You couldn't even crack a fucking joke?
Like who?
Like Eddie Murphy.
See, I feel like they didn't use him correctly, or there's some really awkward stuff between SNL and him.
Possibly. I mean, him and Chevy Chase and SNL. It's like, I don't know. If I was going to make a comeback, per se, I wouldn't want that to be how I was represented.
Well, I almost feel like Eddie Murphy's not funny anymore. That's actually maybe part of the problem. When was the last time he made something you were interested in? Yeah, and he actually kind of seemed like a dick. But I mean, didn't he carry SNL for a couple of years, or at least a season, though? I mean, he was like the only one on there when he was on. You'd think they could have put a little highlight reel together for him or something. I don't know. I feel like they didn't do enough for Eddie Murphy.
Sure. I mean, Chris Rock came out and gave him a nice open.
Yeah.
And Chris Rock kind of did his shtick and was funny and gave the rundown of why he is so important to the show. I mean, he helped the show survive. But Eddie Murphy didn't do anything for himself. And maybe he just wanted to be humble and say thank you and get off. And maybe he doesn't want to,
that could be too.
Maybe he doesn't want to perform anymore. Maybe his life is somewhere else now. That's not up to me. But he just came off so boring. It's like, that's not that Eddie Murphy, I know.
You know, and maybe maybe I have a little more respect for Dennis Miller, who I heard on a podcast say that he was invited and just you know, he's got enough going on out in L.A. Just doesn't want to come out. No disrespect to the show, loves Lauren, you know, all the respect in the world, but just didn't want to come. So I think that, you know, if that was Eddie Murphy, if he just didn't actually even want to be there, it would have almost been better. Just don't go. Like you're not helping anybody by doing that.
Just don't come.
You brought it up. We have to talk about it, at least for a second, is the Seinfeld and Larry David and Sarah Palin, which was also awesome. First of all, now in that part, was that where Seinfeld made the Brian Williams comment? He said something about something, and that's an easy shot that multiple people took. Apparently on the red carpet, somebody did it too.
Jim Carrey did it on the red carpet.
Which, I'm sorry, NBC. You didn't fire them, so everybody gets to take those shots, and they get to do it on NBC.
I mean,
that's funny, and it is funny.
It's like the new meme, you know, like
exactly.
I think Brian Williams was there, you know.
Right. And I did see the latest one where he was at like the Gettysburg Address, like photoshopped in. But I mean that joke will go on for a while. But I loved it when the back and forth with Larry David, which just anytime Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David speak to each other, I wish it was recorded.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always phenomenal. But then he throws Sarah Palin in there, and then she says something about going to the after party, and then he goes back to Larry David and just goes, "Hey, Larry, you can go to the after party."
He goes, "No. Well, why would no?"
And the look on Larry's face is
disgusted.
Like, if it is, you know, and he's acting and it's funny, but he is like, if she's gonna fucking be there, there's no way you will see me within 20 miles of this place.
I
like,
thought
it's just
it was
hilarious.
Just because he was being Larry and he doesn't go to parties.
No, but I think it was also because
it was good timing.
It was a shot at Palin. Because I mean, you know, if you remember, and for those who haven't watched, God, go watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. Watch every episode; it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But the one where he's about to finally get with the girl to cheat on his wife, which she said was okay, like he got one for the 10-year anniversary or something.
Yep.
And then she had the picture of Reagan or something, or Bush next to the bed, and he couldn't do it. He had to leave the room. I mean, it's funny. It doesn't even matter what your politics are. You can flip that and it'd be funny.
Oh, he's such a shit.
Yeah, that's exactly. He's just a dick, and it's hilarious.
And that Jerry Seinfeld up there, I mean, Jerry Seinfeld is just one of my favorite comedians in general. And if you haven't watched Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee,
also
another
phenomenal.
great web series to watch. Super, like 15, 20 minutes each or something like that. But he can shoot the shit with anyone. And I think I like him in a situation like that where there's Q&A going back, because it's never awkward. I mean, like, Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld are kind of the king of awkward, right? But they make it not awkward by it being awkward. You know what I mean?
Because they're showing you they know they're awkward. You know, like they're obvious about it and they don't care.
Right. And they're just two of my favorite people ever. I'm trying to see what else is in here, but excuse me, another one of my favorite parts of the show, which I thought they did a really good job at, is they broke it down into the segments, right? They really focused on the digital shorts or the advertisements, the politics, the music, and I think that kind of makes you think there's so many different facets of the show, and the show has become important in so many ways and not just sketch comedy. And so I really like how they did that, and everyone kind of has their favorite part, right? Mm-hmm. You know, mine was Weekend Update for so long, and then it was the digital short. So I thought that was really cool. They organized it in a really neat way.
By the way, what's your favorite digital short, quickly?
Oh, my God.
I know what mine is.
Probably Dick in a Box.
Yeah, it has to be. Dick in a Box is the greatest. Although I have to say, and God, how old am I? I mean, I'm 34 freaking years old, but I said to myself when they did that at 7 o'clock on a Sunday, I honestly went, they're showing Dick in a Box.
Yeah.
At prime time on a Sunday evening. Where is this country right now? Like, and I'm not like, oh my God, we should change that. But I just went, wow.
I know.
That would not have happened 10 years ago. Not even 10. Yeah, 20 for sure.
Like in the 80s that would have happened.
No,
sure.
No, in the 80s, you could not say that at 7 on a Sunday.
Have you watched any of The Breakfast Club or 16 Candles or any of those movies recently?
I can quote The Breakfast Club. Yeah, I've seen that movie a million times.
They're PG-13 or like PG or something like that.
That's true. They only are PG-13. You're right. Those maybe should be our movies. That's true. I will give you that.
They're
but Breakfast Club is still, I mean, it's pot and it's
Yeah, but like there's like
there's emotional abuse and stuff. And
boobies. That's what I think.
Boobies. Wow. Well, we better R-rate
I don't know.
those
That's what I
boobies.
think of when I think of
Jesus.
16 Candles. It's like boobies. You know.
I don't know 16 Candles actually.
It's a great movie.
I have not seen that one more than once. If I have seen it.
Slightly racist. Slightly very sexual. It's just bad. It's like naughty.
I felt, and I'm trying to think of a specific bit, but even just watching as we're talking about the SNL 40 thing here, there is some stuff that absolutely does not stand up and was absolutely racist and bigoted, and like there was some crazy shit done back in the day that could not. That has gone the other way, where we're more politically correct.
So careful.
Oh, but I can't. As I was watching, I should have written down some notes because I remember as I was watching it, going, "Geez, you gonna get away with that one today."
Well, the certain skits that really brought to light the separation between black and white in America in the 70s. I mean, they were so. I mean, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Or whatever it was when Eddie Murphy was on it, that would never fly now. No. That would never fly.
But that one actually is still funny to me, though. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That's still funny.
They're all still
this
funny.
This is how we answer the door in our neighborhood, kids.
They're all...
Who is it? Like, oh, my God, that shit's hilarious.
Who there? No, they're all still funny. I find every one of those that examines race relations to be hilarious. Because it's still relevant and it's still insane. Yeah. But it just, we don't push the boundaries like we used to. And I wish they kind of would. Like, I was watching that, like, man, that not only was funny, but it made a statement. You know, it was smart.
You know what I think it partially is we think we're post-racial. We know we're not, but we like to think we are. So that stuff, like Eddie Murphy dressing up as a white man and walking down the street and then going into restaurants or like convenience stores and being given shit.
Fucking love
and he's
that.
like, apparently when white people are alone, they just give each other stuff. Like, what? But that is hilarious. Like, and that's obviously how a lot of people do look at the world. And that's where. That is why my favorite part of that show was always Weekend Update, is because it was just a kind of a take on what's going on in the world from a very funny, very satirical, very smart-ass point of view. You know, and actually, without it, you don't have Jon Stewart, who just announced his retirement, and you don't have Stephen Colbert, and you don't have John Oliver. You don't have any of that stuff without SNL.
No.
What else do you think? I mean, you don't have Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, that's for sure. That's a completely different Tonight Show now.
I mean, there's been, I think they said 4 individuals that have got on from SNL to host different late shows, which is really, really, really impressive. And I think that's when anyone needs to be replaced, like whether it's The Daily Show or Tonight Show, where's the first place you go? You look through the list of people of SNL alums, and you're like, who could fill that role? And I think that's a really... It's really telling about the show and how important it is.
What did you think of Kanye?
Dude, I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna put it out there. So you all know right now, I'm gonna make a bold statement. I fucking love Kanye West, and I think he's a genius, and he can do whatever he wants.
Well, he would agree with you on all counts. That's for sure.
I just think the whole thing about him being... People like to hate on him, and it's getting boring. It's boring.
True. But okay. Let me just say that performance, and those of you who haven't watched it, go Google it. It's funny, but
it's strange.
He starts out laying down with a microphone like propped up above him, and he's doing Jesus Walks, which is off his first album, and it's one of my favorite songs, and that's by far, in my opinion, his best album. And you started out, so you're like, that first minute, you're like, this is kind of cool. It's really weird. Why is he laying down? But that's cool. And then he gets up and is joined by a couple other people, and they just kneel the entire time. Mm-hmm. And I get that there's art that I don't get. You know what I mean? Like, I understand there are things that are just not necessarily above me, but just out of my grasp. But to me, it's like that. To me, that was Kanye trying to do that. There's nothing mind-blowing or earth-shattering about kneeling during a hip-hop performance. It wasn't that
absolutely. Cool. He was definitely trying. I mean, he did it for a reason, but isn't that kind of what any performance does? Whether they're standing and dancing or whether, like, any sort of performance art, you're trying to do something for a reason.
I just feel like he has to do other stuff because the actual art isn't that good.
You don't like his music?
No, I don't. I like to, like I said, his first CD was good. He's got a couple of good songs after that, but in general, like, he's probably produced 6 CDs that I have no interest in. It's just, but I've lost interest in most new hip hop. But I just feel like his stuff, it's not special to me. it's just, it doesn't, and I don't know. I was big into hip hop right before Kanye West really got big. Like I started falling back into rock music right after College Dropout and all that stuff. Like right after his peak. Okay. In my opinion, that's not his financial peak. That's not his popularity peak. But just again, in my opinion, artistically. But again, I could say that just about anybody when it comes to hip hop because I lost interest in it in general. So they're like Jay-Z. Like I liked a couple, like his the first Blueprint album. After that, I kind of lost interest. Like it's just. But I don't know if that was just my musical taste changed or if they sucked. I don't know which it is.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess when I listen to Kanye, I don't hear anything else that's similar. Like I think how he layers. I'm not saying he's the best lyricist. I'm not saying that he's the best overall, but I think the way that he produces his music and the way he layers things and the way he writes is so unique to him. And I appreciate that he's not writing singles. Like his albums, I still like to listen to in full, and that's a testament to an artist for me.
I agree.
Is someone who they're not pushing out like pop ballads. Like he's not like Neo, he's not like Chris Brown. He's different, and he's there to make statement and make music for the sake of art, not for the sake of.
How much do you think, and I'm perfectly willing to admit this, how much do you think of the haters it is because of his personality off stage? Like where he seems to think he is so like I love a great artist when they're humble and don't think they're that special. Sure. And he's the opposite of that, where he's like everybody should be listening to me because I'm so cool, and it's right. Like fuck you. Like that to me is a turnoff in and of itself.
No, and that is the biggest thing that I see about people not wanting to listen to his music and not liking him and going off about him and saying get off the stage, everything you do is stupid type of stuff, because his ego has completely overshadowed anything that he's actually made or done. I think if he were to shut up, people would probably, I don't know. I mean, he's doing fine, so it's not like people aren't buying his work.
He's not going to miss any meals anytime
soon. Right, no, he's not, and he's obviously getting airtime. But I think if he would shut up, there would be less pushback from him. But that's not what he's here for. That's not what he wants to do. That is not his MO. Kanye is to be Kanye, and that's kind of what I like about him. Though, like I don't give a shit how big his ego is. Like I'm not doing what he's doing.
Did you hear the latest though about the North at the New York Fashion Week?
Yeah, I did. Saw that.
Why are you bringing your 1-year-old to fashion? Like I'm sorry, that is your ego. Like you think you're so cool that your 1-year-old is supposed to come to that. I thought
it was like the Alexander Wang show or something. I thought a bunch of people brought their kids.
Okay, I'm just saying. It just seems like that's so. And I yes, I'm going to say this. That's such a Kim Ye thing. Like only their kid would like. Their 1-year-old has already got the ego that they do. Like they're going to disrupt a huge fashion show in New York. That to me is just another reason to hate them. It makes it really easy to hate them. I mean, Kim Kardashian, everybody hates just because they don't think she has any talent. I think her talent is using no talent and making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Which is a talent. That is something. But God, I said this the other day on Jeff Dubé's show. Somehow Kim came up, and we had a couple of guests on, and the gal, I said, well, okay, because everybody was bashing her, and I said, well, I can think of one positive about her, and that is she has definitely created jobs. Like the fact that she is a media mogul, whether she's talentless or whatever, there's a bunch of cameramen and sure. writers or whatever they are that are employed by her. And the girl right away said, "Yeah, that's also what she said too." And I went, "Oh, I take it back. Nope, all right, fine. Nope, she's a loser."
I'm creating jobs.
But I'm sorry that, frankly,
I am creating jobs.
And that's how she'd say it too.
I'm just kind of over the hate of Kim and Kanye. I think it's boring to hate them. I think it's overdone. I don't know. I've always liked Kanye's music, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't like what he's making. I just can't. I just can't pretend like I don't like it because it's good shit.
What else do we have to say about the SNL thing?
What else do we have to say about it?
There was more.
I don't know.
There was a lot. I mean, there was so much. It was 3.5 freaking hours.
It was long.
It was so much, and I definitely did not see every minute. I turned away for a bit, but
it was a nice recap. I loved seeing everything that's happened over the years and kind of revisiting my favorite stuff. It was nice to see Paul Simon. It was nice to see Paul McCartney. It was nice to see Kanye. Like, it hit, like, 3 of my biggest favorite artists.
What'd you think of Aykroyd with the fish in the blender thing, which in the 60s or 70s, whatever that was, 70s or 80s, that would have been funny. That wasn't funny to me at all anymore. And it was more like, and I don't know, but this is to show you the sensitivity of our culture has changed. But just to me, I just don't want to see even a dead thing just get chopped to bits. Like, this just wasn't.
I don't know.
It wasn't, and I think too the bit was back then he was this crazy coked up salesman, like, check this out, yeah. And then for old him to come out and try to do the same bit. I think it would have been better just to actually just play the old bit. Just start it out by playing that bit. That would have been funnier.
It's just fun to see people revisit their old characters. And I was really impressed with how easily they kind of fell back into them. I don't know if I could do. I mean, maybe it was such a part of their lives that it's. But I think that would be scary, first of all, because you have a lot to live up to. I'm trying to think of all the kind of the biggest skits. I mean, Dana Carvey and Mike Myers obviously redid a little bit of Wayne's World, which was funny and great.
Saved the end, because that was when it was just dying. Yeah. Like, you're going, Jesus, how much more can they do?
Yep, and Dana Carvey was perfect still to this day.
I was were you surprised with the lack of audience reaction to Choppin' Broccoli? He got no laugh out of it. Like, he's even kind of like, what's wrong with you guys? Like, what the hell's going on here?
The problem is you put a bunch of celebs in a fucking room with each other. What are they?
That's true,
are they going to, that was another thing. It's like, these were people that were clapping for themselves, essentially.
That's true, too, yeah.
So
that almost should have been like a normal audience and then them too.
Right.
Which that studio is so small, you couldn't really do that. But that would be kind of cool, too, is to get the people who've loved the show for all these years, too, and separate from it to react to it.
Well, and I was worried kind of about people coming on stage and into a skit in the middle of it and people screaming and clapping and kind of ruining, like, all right, keep it going. Like, we need to see the end of the skit. And, of course, I realized, like, oh, these are all pretty much celebrities and their families and their friends, and no one's going to have a problem with that.
Nope, that's not going to be a problem.
So that was not an issue. I thought it was fun to see people relive their old characters, and they did a great job. And whether the skits were super funny or not, I mean, I thought Celebrity Jeopardy was funny.
Oh, yeah.
I
that
thought
one always crushes, though.
That one was good. I thought Wayne's World was funny. I'm trying to think of what else.
Although, speaking of Kanye, even Kanye takes over the Wayne's World part. I mean, and they, again, on their own, like, that wasn't Kanye being a dick, actually. That was them making fun of him. But still, that shows, he is on the top of our conscience, of the American conscience.
He is. It's just just stop talking about him for a little bit, guys. It's
seriously,
fine.
get a break.
It's fine. I mean, the dude just kind of says what he wants to say, and he's going to keep doing it. So, I don't know. Just get over him.
On that note, get over Kanye, and why don't you come back right after this? We'll take a quick break on the Pubcast. Be right back.
The Rusty Gatenby Review is the entertaining show about entertainment from movies, music, and more. Award-winning TV guy Rusty Gatenby and his review is the podcast with the biggest cast in entertainment, part of the Alive and Social Network. You can get that Minnesota connection to Hollywood and beyond any time of the day or night simply by clicking on the RustyGatenbyReview.com. That's the RustyGatenbyReview.com, part of the Alive and Social Network.
Just the two of us. Welcome back to the Pubcast.
Love the Beatles. I will say I picked a Paul McCartney song to learn from Wings. To learn on my guitar. Definitely one of the hardest songs I've learned yet. Do you need to
flip it over and play lefty? Will that make it easier? Is that the problem?
Maybe. No, definitely not.
I still find that so strange that one of the best in the world ever did that.
You know what's cool? What I just realized, though?
What?
This is a stoner moment by me.
I was going to say, what did you just... I thought you cut yourself.
Oh, no. I'm looking at my left hand. I can't do anything with my left hand. I write with my right hand. I throw with my right hand. You try and make me, like, fiddle with something. Fiddle.
Trying to think of it. Never mind.
I can't do it. I just can't do it. I just realized I can play guitar chords with my left hand, obviously, because that's how I play guitar.
Right, but that is supposed to be the easier thing to do with your hand, right? Because the strumming takes more of the coordination, right?
I know
what you're saying.
I don't think so.
But then why wouldn't righties play strumming with their left hand? I think that's easier, but you're right. You're still using coordination. You have to be able to do that.
Like maybe you're right. Maybe I couldn't keep a beat as well with my left hand.
Well, I'm trying to think too. I've been given like the most basic piano lesson, and I feel like the left hand is the more basic, like the chord, and then the notes are on the right hand, right? Like, so I think they're all generally set up because we are all that way. Because we can't do shit with our left hand. That's why drummers impress me a lot.
Sure. Learning chords to me has been such an interesting new challenge in my life. sounds just getting kind of weird.
Have you ever, I like these little tangents. Have you ever just, though, had the thought, like, how the hell did someone come up with a guitar? Like, not just by itself, if you just strum the strings, doesn't really, you have to not only invent this instrument, but then also figure out the very small amount of places you can put your fingers where it sounds right. Like it's a crazy. To me, it's as crazy as who the hell figured out to smoke marijuana or tobacco. Like you smoked every other plant first. Like I mean, it's to me. And what else did you do before you made the guitar? Like how many terrible instruments did you create that sounded like shit before you finally figured out how to do it right? I don't know. I think that's crazy that we've gotten there.
It comes down to people who just really understand music and understand sound, and that is a really cool kind of science and part of the brain that a lot of people don't have. Being able to hear music out of context and know exactly what it is.
Well, I wonder if there's something to like the people that can see music, see the colors and stuff of notes and all that. If that kind of thing would be easier for them to translate into. Like, I don't know. To me, a guitar is a fucking foreign object, and I've been taught somehow how to play, and it's crazy that anybody can pick that up and make it sound as beautiful as they can.
With me, it's a lot of learning to just kind of let go and just trust your ear, and because I grew up playing music, I grew up playing saxophone, which is to me a lot less complicated instrument. I mean, you
really
put 3 fingers down, and you know that you're gonna have a G. You put 2 fingers down, and you're gonna an A. 1 is a B. And so it's more. I don't know. It's just simpler. You blow into it. You need to have good embouchure and whatever. Guitar. People say guitar is really simple. For me, it's been completely different experience and a lot harder. But it's funny because my guitar teacher was like, "Okay, I'm gonna play 4 different notes for you on a whatever you call it. I don't know what it is. Anyway, he played me 4 different random notes, and I had to play it back. I played it back.
Really?
And that is something that I didn't think when he asked me to do the concept. I was like, I can't do that. Are you fucking kidding me? No
You're
way.
Right. I wouldn't know a C or a G or I wouldn't know what I was.
He said, "Don't look. I'm just gonna play 4 notes," and it was just picking, so it was on a scale. But yeah, it was all in different order, and he asked me to play it, and I just did it. I don't know. And that's something about music is you have to learn to trust yourself.
Well, and once you can do that, though, that's when you can just listen to a song and figure out how to play it. And I think that the coolest thing ever when you can do that.
Yeah, that is cool. I'm not really there yet.
But I'm just saying, though, if you can just do that with 4 notes.
Sure.
If you can most songs are a few basic chords, and then you just learn the rhythm, and it's really...
Absolutely.
Once you know the basics, it's one of those building blocks things.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's an exercise he has me do is I'll, listen to a song, we'll find the key signature, and within that key signature, I have to decide what notes are within that key signature, and then he'll ask me, okay, which chords within that song sound out of place, and I have to use my ear to figure out which ones don't fit, and therefore they would not be within the same key signature.
Well, that had nothing to do with what we wanted to talk about.
I know. Well, I just,
Well, no, and we're because of that weird little 4-minute break that we were forced to take. We are just got 15 minutes left, and then you got to get out of here.
I do. Wait, did you know that Paul McCartney, speaking of the Beatles that we just played, he can't read music?
That makes me hate him more, I think. Like, really? You got that good and you can't even...
Isn't that incredible?
So he's always just played by sound, you mean? Or so Lennon would just go, play this, and then he'd just go, yeah, I can get that on the bass. Like,
yeah, I mean he can probably read tablature for a guitar, and he can, like, you know, when you look at a guitar music and they just have the notes above the words, you know, and he knows whatever is a G.
Well, he knows what plays a note.
But in terms of a score, he doesn't know how to read music.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is that is what it's important to play piano. But he can play piano, so he probably just knows by ear.
he's one of those people that literally is just born to play music. I mean, he dreamt his songs. I mean, the guy's built to make music. He was put here for one reason and one reason only.
And to perform. He loves to perform, which is really cool about him.
Yeah. No, and okay. And I did hear somebody else say this too, but I totally agree. When you see him at award shows like the Grammys and stuff, he is always one of those guys that he's like, this is cool. Like and he's like, I'm lucky to be here. And I don't care if that's an act.
Yeah.
At least he's like, when the camera's on him, he's having a good time. And somebody else said too that like Taylor Swift, which that's one of my what do you call that when you like guilty pleasures? Like I have, she's one of my, but she looks like she's having a good time when she's out in public. And again, if that's fake, that's fine. At least she's showing that she's not just sitting there like bored and pissed off like Kanye always looks.
Yeah, she's genuinely, I think, a really nice person. But Paul, I'm happy that he's one of the last Beatles left. That's super weird of me to say.
George is up there like, fuck you.
But you know what? If George and John had still been around, I don't think the Beatles' music could have lived on as easily as it does with Paul. I mean, Paul still carries it across the country, across the world, across his tours. He's still making more music. He still likes to perform. He's open. He talks about the Beatles. And I think that George and John had a tendency to shut down. They didn't want to perform anymore.
No, I would feel that John, it would be one of those things where every 15 years you'd force him out, you know, and he'd do it to make the $20 million and then go home, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also, part of me likes that about those artists too, where they're like, you know, I did my time and now I'm done, as opposed to the guy that's like, well, until I'm 94, I'm out there. You know, I don't know.
But Paul's not getting old in a sense that people aren't getting tired of him.
He sounded like shit at, was that SNL or was that the Grammys?
It was on SNL. You know what I thought was really interesting about that song that they picked, Maybe I'm Amazed? So he does that.
Which is a tough song to sing.
He does that every show, and all of his concerts that I've been to, the 3 of them I've been to, he sounds incredible.
Yeah, and I've seen him live before too, and it was great.
And then you get to Maybe I'm Amazed, which he usually does, and that song is so fucking hard. And every time I've heard him play that live, he sounds like that.
Okay. I thought I had heard him do that one well. So he has just he just can't get there anymore. He just doesn't have it in his register.
He started playing it, and I was like, really? Like, I was kind of crossing my fingers for him, like, oh man, I hope he can figure it out.
Did.
He kind of figured it out. He was fine.
No, but it wasn't what you would hope for by any means. It was definitely not album sounding. Like that's not one of those ones where you put up against the live against the recorded and go, which one's the difference?
Yeah, I mean,
no, you'd know real
Paul
quickly.
Simon played it very safe.
Well, we'll see if we have time to talk about this tonight. If not, we're back here at O'Gara's tomorrow night. We got to talk about Minneapolis the Beautiful, is the way I put it. The Atlantic wrote a piece that's not nearly as long as the other pieces I brought today about ISIS, but Jesus, I went all Atlantic today, by the way. Very Atlantic-themed show.
5,000-word piece that you put up there.
Oh, my God, it's so long. And it's interesting, but it's still so long. Maybe I'll post. Well, you posted it on Twitter tonight, didn't you?
I did.
And I think I'll throw it up on Facebook or something if somebody wants to see it tomorrow. It's really interesting. Mm-hmm. But Jesus, long. But the Atlantic, there's a piece in the Atlantic today basically talking about just the genius that is Minneapolis. And yes, just Minneapolis, not the Twin Cities, Minneapolis.
But it's called the Miracle of Minneapolis.
Yes, and you stop me at any point where you think that something I'm saying is being incorrect, but it's basically saying that because of the way they spread wealth from not just even just like inner city to outer city, but from inner city and wherever else and wherever the rich people are living to parts of suburbs to wherever, it has made it so that nobody falls too far down to a bottom. They're always at least in a nicer place.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And I relate to this very much personally because I remember there was low-income housing in Cottage Grove, and I think it was there before we got there, but I feel like it was a relatively new thing, and it was nicknamed Little Chicago. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was where all the criminals, quote unquote, were. Mm-hmm. And it was, but that was it was in a beautiful little suburb, Cottage Grove. It talks about how, I mean, we have very educated people here. Our educated people stay here, and they all have, I mean, income-wise, I think our median income is higher than New York's. Was that what they were trying to say?
Yeah, I could read this little paragraph if you want me to. That kind of sums it up well. It says, only 3 large metro areas where at least half the homes are within reach, which is where you want it to be. With wealthier cities, you want at least half the homes or more to be within reach. For young middle-class families, also finished in the top 10 in the Harvard-Berkeley Mobility Study. Salt Lake City, Pittsburgh, and Minneapolis-St. Paul. The last is particularly remarkable. The Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area is richer by median household income than Pittsburgh or Salt Lake or New York or Chicago or LA among residents under 35. The Twin Cities placed in the top 10 for the highest college graduation rate, highest median earnings, the lowest poverty rate according to the most recent census figures. And yet, according to the Center for Housing Policy, low-income families can rent a home and commute to work more affordably in Minneapolis-St. Paul than in all but one other major metro area, which is D.C. And we have the highest employment rate for 18 to 34-year-olds. So, we got a lot going for us.
Yes. So, what was it? Did you read this and just go, yeah, that's what I thought? Or what was your take originally?
Yeah, I mean, I think I absolutely do feel that way. I mean, there's been a lot of talk lately about how high rent prices are, which is the reason why I bought my house. Like, if I want to live in a place like Uptown, I have to pay $1,200-$1,300 a month to live in a kind of like a place where it has everything I want, right? Which is not within reach with a lot of people. And so that I was a little surprised about, but there are plenty of other neighborhoods outside, like the trendy ones that I'm living in, that I want to live in, that are I think really are affordable to live in. So.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, and they don't talk about St. Paul on this, but I mean, St. Paul is part of this. I mean, it is part of the Twin Cities, and I do know you can at least rent a nice place in St. Paul in a nice neighborhood with lots of cool stuff going on for a relatively, for a realistic price range. You know, something that you don't have to be rich to make. I mean, I could live there, and I don't make a crazy amount of money. But I want to get your take on this. What the part that I find to be a false positive is this thing where we say that people that are in lower income, we put them in nicer spots. And if you're in Cottage Grove, for instance, where I came up, you're going to be in a better school district. You're gonna have the benefits of that stuff. And I think that there's this thing that's all you need. Like the reason that rich people are rich is because of where they live and because of the school districts. And it's kind of backward thinking to me. Because to me, the reason people are successful and have money is usually because of the family lifestyle that they lead. It's usually either if it's a one-income household, it's a pretty high income, and if it's a two-household income, it's usually with good daycare or with a mother or with one of the parents. I don't even care about which gender, but being able to be around more to raise the kid and help with homework, just all that kind of stuff. And I think that maybe when you make it easier on lower-income people, but you don't actually fix their problems, that can be worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a lot of what has been said in the aftermath of this article. People are now posting articles about how Minneapolis still has a huge issue with education inequality and how there is this massive learning gap between black and white students in Minneapolis. And even though we might not have this huge area of low-income minorities where there's lots of gang issues, I mean, North Minneapolis has a bit of that, a good amount of that, but not like south side of Chicago.
What it points out is we don't have these ghetto areas.
No, we don't.
Like Chicago, you can be in the nice area and then you're in the shit area. Yeah, in Minneapolis and stuff, it's more spread out.
And people are mixed. I mean, I have friends that live in North Minneapolis in an area that we would call, quote, quote, shitty. But you would never find that a white kid living in the south side of Chicago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we definitely have more of a mixture here of income that's been dispersed, but we do have an issue with black students not meeting the requirements that white students are, and that's a huge problem. And I don't know how to stop that. I mean,
my thing is it's a chicken or egg thing, and I think a lot of people think that it's all about you just need to fund this. You know, it's a funding issue, and it's a spreading the wealth issue, whereas I think we got to step back and look at the priorities of people before they even start having kids and start before they get to poverty. You know, like, we got to stop the chain, not just say, oh, you're in poverty, here's some money, then you're not in poverty anymore. We got to stop what got them into poverty in the first place.
Sure. I mean, I get, there's a whole arguments against welfare, which I'm just to put it out there, I'm totally for welfare, and so people will probably start to call me a socialist. That's what people are saying about this article, is that Minneapolis and Minnesota in general is a socialist run government.
Kind of what the Atlantic is touting in a way. I don't think they're running from that.
I mean, we have some high ass taxes here, as my stepfather would like to remind me.
And the Met Council is like almost scarier than socialism because they're not even government. You know what I mean? Like, that's even scarier to me, but that's a whole different issue.
But I don't know. I mean, but when it comes to education, I am about funding more things, and I don't know what the answer for getting rid of this education gap in Minneapolis, but my first response would be fund some programs for these kids that don't have it as easy as others. But I don't know. Let's take
our last quick break. We'll come right back and wrap it up here on the Pubcast.
Hi, I'm Terry Daniel, and I've been a voice actor in Minneapolis for over 2 decades now. How often are you getting compliments on your voice? Now is the time to do something about it. If you're interested in getting into voiceovers, please contact me via my website at universalvoicetalent.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Alyssa.
And this is Liz.
And we're with The Focus Radio,
where our focus is to bring you resources to grow your business and double your income.
Join us on Mondays from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Time. TheFocusRadio.com.
Holla if you hear me. Yeah.
I love that I accidentally played this. What a great bump. Holla if you hear me.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. I love that I have that on my phone, though. A little Tupac to bring it back. This is the Pubcast. Molly Burke, Jason McGovern. I love that we don't have to tell people who we are because it's a podcast. You already know who we are. But I feel I'm so used to doing it on radio that I'm shocked I don't do it every time we come back from a segment or start the show, that I don't say your name and my name.
I think we should just start, referring to us as our Twitter handles.
That's at MK
we're back
Burke
with
over there.
at MK Burke and McGov Podcast.
Nothing awkward about that.
You're on the at MN Pubcast.
Jeez. I'm waiting for Twitter, for when we say Twitter handles, to not say at. For some reason that's still part of stores. Because it's like saying www. Every Twitter handle is at.
Yeah, but...
So you should just be MK Burke. That's your Twitter handle. My Twitter handle should be McGov Podcast, not at McGov Podcast.
But that's who you're directing it at somebody. It's the whole point.
But I'm telling you, I listened to 15
I'm
years.
telling you.
15 years of advertising where it was go to www.menards.com to get the latest special. It's just not necessary.
But you're not talking... We're talking about two completely separate things. You can't just have it all run together like one run-on sentence when you're tweeting. You're directing a tweet at something.
I'm not saying in the text. I'm saying when we're talking about it.
Oh,
was I not clear?
I thought you
I get on there.
Twitter. I was like, that's the whole point of Twitter.
I get that. No, I'm saying like when I say your Twitter handle, I would say it's at MK Burke, right? Like I think that's, and you would say mine is at McGov Podcast. I'm telling you, the at is what's useless. It's like www. It's unnecessary. But you're right. No, in writing, you have to have it on it.
I like it because it kind of prefaces it. Like, where should I reach you? At McGov Podcast. Oh, I get it. Your Twitter handle's at McGov Podcast. I get it now.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. What would we do without you? Oh, God.
I don't know.
Well, speaking of what would we do without you, we're going to be with you tomorrow, and we're going to talk about what it would be like to live on Mars. And I love your reaction to that story, and I have some too, and it's going to be fun.
Can you cue up the part that I'm talking about with that guy's voice?
I will get that into a soundbite for you tomorrow.
Great.
That guy is. Oh God,
it's going to be a doozy, guys.
All right, well, Molly might not be invited back tomorrow, but we will hopefully see you back. We'll be, again, live here at O'Gara's, and coming up, a special edition of Wild Wednesday live from O'Gara's. The first time the boys have ever done a show here at O'Gara's. So that's coming up in about an hour and a half if you're listening live, which you can't be, so I have no fucking idea why I said that. So if you're listening to this recorded, Dubé Show's probably over. Go and listen to his show at JeffDubé.com. I am out of here. We'll see you soon.